What's good, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of Infamously Speaking. I'm Matt, joined by the infamous Quan. Of course, you know what we're doing. This is Infamously Speaking, and I'm fired up to be here. Couple things before we jump into the show. Of course, if you're not already, subscribe to the Infamously Speaking YouTube channel, following, or whatever that looks like on whatever you get your podcasts. Please go ahead and do that. Helps the show grow. Also consider leaving a comment, sharing the show with friends and family, and following us on our socials at Infamously Speaking. Real quick before we jump into anything, I want everybody to see something real quick. So I'm wearing the Kareem Brown Skills Academy t-shirt.
Yeah,
and this was very tactical because I got to shout out our guy Kareem yesterday, March 3rd. So we're recording this March 4th. So yesterday, March 3rd, Kareem Brown, who's the head coach of the Fitch Falcons boys high school team, they won the ECC Division I championship. So we got to show love to our guy. Major moves. Unfortunately, it was at the expense of my hometown, Norwich Wildcats. But listen, Kareem's a brother. He showed love to the show. He's doing incredible things for the youth, uplifting them. In fact, I heard something that he said in the post-game interview, because I went back and I watched a little bit of the game. They have it on YouTube, on the Days YouTube channel. And I thought it was dope, something that he said about his team and something that he always speaks to them, why they're so close, why they play so unselfishly. And he was like, I always just tell him, like, be that person, be the good kid, be the good person, not just on the court, but in life, because whatever you practice off the court is what is going to come into the game. So if you practice unselfishness in the day-to-day, it's going to be natural when you step inside the court. If you practice being a good person and loving your teammates, whoever you're in the trenches with, it's going to be natural in the pressure situations, which ties so well into what we talked about last week. So we always got to shout out people who are doing great things in the community, but also people who live values very closely aligned to ours. So again, congrats to the Fitch High School men's basketball team. And again, congrats to our guy, Kareem. Big dub. Yes. First ECC title, I believe it said in 22 years. That's major.
That is major. Shout out to Reem. Shout out to X. You know, that's my man Trey's son. I know he's always been working with him and working on his game. Trey was nice too, but it's dope to see that come full circle and see all that hard work that they put in as well pay off, because you know X is that guy on that team. And shout out to Reem, man. I'm not a Falcons person just because I'm from the L, but you know, gotta show love to our people.
Always. That's major, man. That's major. And I love that for him. Just knowing how passionate he is about the game, of course, being a former D1 college player himself, but even more so how passionate he is in giving back to, and then, of course, seeing that come to fruition on one of the biggest stages. So, major.
Now we ain't going to be able to get him on the show ever. It's hard enough before he won Coach of the Year in the ECC.
Right. I forgot about that. He also won Coach of the Year. I know, right? It was hard getting him on the show before he was famous.
Yeah.
Now he's like, no time. But I love that, man. Whenever we got to talk about Southeastern Connecticut and the big things that are happening out there, it's a great feeling.
Yo, it's crazy. I ran into Reem. I ran into Reem in New London in the summertime, and we had some funny, interesting conversations. And he was backpedaling on the show, but we'll get him on here eventually. We gotta wait till the off season.
He was supposed to join us when the Pacers eliminated the Knicks. He was about to go crazy. Remember that? Talking crazy. But shout out to Reem, man. Shout out to Reem.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I did peep the shirt before you even mentioned it. And I myself am wearing Critical Racing. My cousin Diego, cousin Sean, and my little cousin Brody. He actually just won a big race in Daytona. I remember when he was, man, shout out to him.
Major.
I remember when he was young, like really young. He's still young, but I remember there was a clipping in like the article said like Brody Monahan wins championship, doesn't even have a license. It was crazy, right?
That is crazy.
But he gets it from his dad and his uncle, because they've always been in the racing game, and he has a great support with family. So gotta show love and appreciation for that, right? Team Critical all day.
Absolutely. Like I said, Southeastern Connecticut, man, doing big things. All right. So We had a lot of great reaction from last show. I know just right before we hopped on, you was talking about, yeah, people reaching out to you. I also have people reaching out to me. And I have people reach out to me today, actually. You know why? It's probably
Mm,
not for the reason why you think. Not
talking shit about
because
me.
no, 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 no. No, they would just reach out to you directly. Why would they come to me? It's not because we were motivational. It's not because we said something that really resonated. It's because, I made the Rams analogy when we were talking about taking big swings. I was like, yeah, the Rams, remember they traded away like every first round draft pick they
Yeah,
ever
yeah,
made.
yeah.
Well, earlier today they traded away Trent McDuffie, or they get Trent McDuffie from the
Yep,
Chiefs, all
I
pro
seen that.
corner, and they traded away their first overall pick. And they're like, this guy knows something. I promise that was just a random analogy, but I thought that was funny. But it also shows that people are listening to the show, which we always appreciate. I think we're gonna come on and do the show regardless, just because of our own motivation and grind and our desire to do it. But whenever you have people that are calling out, like even just the little things, especially the little things, actually, it's such a great feeling because it's like, man, they really had to be listening to pick that up because it wasn't like a recurring theme throughout the show. We were talking about them. And
Yeah,
so, like,
yeah.
people are really tapped in, and it makes it that much more exciting to get back on the show and talk.
Yeah, yeah. It's not like casually browsing. Like, shout out to my brother.
Yeah.
Shout out to Adam, man. He's like, Quan, you crazy for saying petty wop. But I mean,
Shit,
it's
bro.
just one of those things.
No, absolutely. But I did want to get into a couple things real quick because I'm sure you've been following a little bit. So we talked about the different seasons of life last show. And we related it to sports, and so I want to kind of start there because there is some movement that happened. I'm sure you saw. I'm not sure. I had to get your reaction, right? Kyler Murray being released by the Cardinals. I
I'm
need your
ecstatic.
reaction to that one.
I'm
Yeah.
ecstatic. I'm ecstatic. All my dynasties with Marvin Harrison Jr. will now come to
Shit
fruition.
is back on. But I think I saw a report that they'd be willing to trade Brissett if they got like a good, like high day 3 pick or something like that. I'm like, Brissett was balling.
He
Michael
was.
Wilson was eating because of that.
That's a fact.
Michael Wilson
That's
was
a fact.
eating.
Michael Wilson almost won me a chip.
He's the only reason I think I won one of my playoff games in our dynasty.
Mm.
Stephon Diggs being released by the Patriots. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, of course. And do you think that kind of creates a lane for maybe a AJ Brown type trade?
Percent. It does. See, the thing is like I won't even like talk shit about Diggs because all the shit I talked about all season is what I appreciated, like that leadership. He brought that fire. I felt like, and
Yep.
he brought that veteran that we needed in that locker room. So I won't talk shit. I just think that maybe some of the outside shit was probably too much for the organization. I don't know. I think Diggs had a great year, over 1,000 yards. So I'm not gonna complain. I just know that the Patriots do want to make a splash with free agency. So I can see AJ Brown coming in. Now trading AJ Brown for Diggs, obviously I think at this point in both their careers, AJ Brown's probably someone you would prefer on the roster. As long as he leaves his books in Philly, I'm good.
Yeah. It's always fun when we talk about AJ Brown, right? Because he's this insanely talented player. There's no denying that. The reason I laughed is because you remember week 1 when we dropped that line, the Lightning targeted him more than Jalen Hurts did. That was his
Yeah.
that was his whole like saga in Philly over the last couple of years, man. And it's gonna be interesting to see if they move him. But the reason I brought up Diggs, obviously because he was a Patriot, and I know you talked a lot about his leadership in the locker room, and he had a great year, is because Seattle is letting Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP running back Kenneth Walker, test free agency. No tag, no nothing. So I want to kind of talk about, I think something that everybody's kind of experienced, right? Where it's like when you perform so well for an organization, and I know a lot of people listening can relate to this because of what's happened at some organizations all over the country with people getting let go. And a lot of times it's not for performance. You gave your all, you gave a lot of your time, a good portion of your life for a lot of people to an organization. How do you move on from that after you gave so much to something?
Well, Kenneth Walker is good. Now he's good to go. He's gonna find a home.
Yeah, he's
So I
good.
think he's all right. I think for the average person, it's a lot more difficult because you don't necessarily know your next move, right? Like Kenneth Walker going to free agency, he's gonna have conversations with people who want him on the team, who's going to pay him. Some people leave in organizations, that's not necessarily true. You got to go look for things, right? Look for opportunities, but they're not scouting for you necessarily. Like that,
Mhm.
right? If you get let go of your job, I highly doubt there's another company that's like, oh, I've been waiting for that guy. Unless you was putting yourself out there, maybe, but you're really not because you're putting your all in your current position.
Right.
So how do you deal with that? I think you just gotta take it for what it is, assess yourself, and plan what your next move is, right? Kind of like what you said. At that point, you in the off season.
Yeah,
you in the
100%.
you in the permanent off season. At that point, you gotta figure shit out.
Right.
But that might be the opportunity that we talk about all the time where you get pushed, your back's against the wall, you gotta figure shit out. So now you're in an uncomfortable state. You might find somewhere where you bring that same amount of value, if not more, and it's appreciated. And I think for the person who's listening who may be going through something like that, if you could look in the mirror and say, "Yo, I'm putting everything I can in, and I know what I bring to the table," all you gotta do is find the right table. You'll be all right.
Right. No, I think that's great analysis. I think it's just sometimes it's difficult, especially for the everyday person. But even, when you play sports, right? Especially when it's the first team that you played for, you grow a lot of affinity towards that, right? Because they gave you a chance, right? In the NFL's case, or in any sports case, the team that drafted you gave you a chance in the league. And then when you go and you accomplish something really big, and you're a big part of it, sometimes you can attach some of your identity to that, right? And now all of a sudden it's like gone. Now I'm sure in Kenneth Walker's case, he knew it was a possibility, right? I'm sure in the back of their mind, I think all of us in the back of our minds understand, and us non-athletes understand that our employment's at will, right? And so that means they can just, hey, we don't need you anymore. But it's not something that you're always thinking about or preparing for. Sometimes you allow so much of yourself to be defined by a situation or what you're doing because it is a big part of your life. How do you make sure that you don't get yourselves too wrapped up in the role so that when it does go away for whatever
Mm,
reason, you know what I mean? You're not,
I think.
you're not, you don't implode.
Well, I think that throughout the course of the time, you should still be working on your individual self, right? Like you should
Mm,
never stop. Whether you're in a team environment, individual, you got to continue working on yourself so that kind of like what you
mhm.
talked about last episode, where you're preparing regardless. But don't stress yourself out. You don't want to do that.
The way that I look at it
Yeah, let's
is
do this.
really, really simple. You can continue to grow in a team environment. I mean, I think if you're in an
Oh yeah,
environment that isn't challenging to grow as an individual, then it's probably not a good situation for you anyways. In a good organization, good leadership, while we preach individual, team over the individual, a good organization also looks out for the individuals, if that makes sense. Like when you have a good leader, of course you want team over individual, but when you focus on the individuals, they will give more to the team because they feel
mm,
supported, they feel heard,
facts.
they feel like they're taken care of. And then at the point where even even if you're prepared like that and you've grown and you have a strong foundation, it's not like it's gonna feel good. It's not gonna hit you back a little bit, and you're not gonna be in a little state of shock, like what the heck just happened? We did all this great shit, and now it's like you don't need me anymore. So what you were kind of saying a little bit earlier, it's easier to withstand that punch because you're like, you know what? But I do have all these things that I worked on. I do have all these skills, and I can speak to all the things that I did. And so now I can move forward with some confidence, knowing that who I was or what my situation before didn't define me, right? Because I'm walking away with all these tangible things, and now I'm an asset wherever I go because I have all these skills, that can be plugged and
Facts.
played anywhere. Like a Kenneth Walker, right? You said he's gonna command a lot of money because he has skills that work anywhere.
hmm No, that's a really good point, Matt. I will say this: like I consistently work on myself, right, as an individual to lead by example for my team
Mm,
who they don't have all the skill sets that they need or they want, or it might not even pertain to what they want to go for, right? Might have different goals. So, but I tell them like there's things you can still work on and improve with that's going to help you in your future, in your next role that might not even be here. right? So all
Yes.
that's doing is it's making you a better person now, which ultimately helps the team overall, but it also gives you the skill set you may need in the future for another role, another opportunity that comes your way. And
Love
that's a
that.
real thing, right? So like even with like DORs I give out still, and I get it. Some of them are not hesitant or like reserved with it because they're not sure. But that's my role to be supportive to show them the way until they feel comfortable, or just give them a little push and help them understand the bigger picture. Where it's like this isn't just for me. You got to understand this is for you to get a skill set that you don't have in your wheelhouse right now that you could take somewhere else if you have to go.
Yes.
And you said it best, but like when you work on something individually, it's ultimately going to help the team collectively. It's a natural thing. Whether you're inspiring someone else to learn another skill set or another mastery class or whatever the case may be, or just your contributions as an individual that goes into the whole, right? So very well put. I had gone to a meeting recently and it was a bunch of leaders and they were talking about like time management and just, a bunch of things that will make you a more impactful leader. And I was happy to see that, right? Because we're kind of like, I wouldn't say it was like a class setup, but there was opportunities to learn if they haven't learned those lessons yet with the leaders
Right.
that were there. And I wanted to call that out, which I did, because I wanted them to know that this isn't normal. This isn't a normal activity of you learning. This is investing in you, and you got to take this investment and hopefully invest in yourself and take this knowledge and keep it going. It reminded me of a time where I did have a meeting one time, and I remember looking at the leaders like, "Yo, I love this. Like, they're inspirational to me to be able to talk in front of this group and provide knowledge like this." And it kind of went full circle where, I've done that, right? I've been doing that a lot, probably this last year and a half, 2 years of like teaching and helping develop to help those individuals play a bigger role as a team, right? So it goes
Right.
into your question of like, you know, understanding that if you are in a role, right? Another thing good thing you said was like if you're in a role and you're in a team role where you're just complacent and you're good where you're at, like that's not the place you want to be. If there's not someone challenging you, then that's you should start, questioning why. And then you could
Yes.
look in the mirror and question yourself because you can't rely on people either. What are you gonna
Yes.
do if they don't, right? You could be under a leader who does not challenge you. They don't want to,
Mm.
it's not in their thing. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
Just stay there?
Yes.
You gotta speak up or make
Chopped
moves
cheese,
yourself.
brother.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I love that you said that. So I was having a development connection with my manager, and new, fairly new. Like I've known this person before they became my leader, but with some of the shifts, they're now my leader, and so they're doing some of the more formal development things. And one of the things that they like to do is have these semi-frequent development connects to get an idea of like, hey, what's your individual development plan looking like? What are some of your goals like? Tell me a little bit about yourself. One thing that I mentioned was that very thing, which they're like, she was like, do you enjoy the work that you do? And I was like, I enjoy things that challenge me. That's what I enjoy.
Mhm,
Whatever the work is, I mean, I'm sure there's definitely things that I like more than I don't like, but if it challenges me, then I'm gonna be good with it. I'd rather do something I don't like that challenges me than something that I do that doesn't. Because at that point, I know I'm not growing. If I could just do it without even thinking about it, then to me, that's not high value work. And I don't want to waste my time doing not valuable work, right? I want work
mhm,
that's gonna impact people. Cause to your point, I mean, and I told her this pretty much verbatim, is I think back to my my learning experience when I first joined where we worked. And it was terrible. I didn't know anything. And I told her straight up, I was like, the only reason that I found success and all, I give thanks to God, I was in a situation where I had people who cared. To your
mhm,
point, I had people who wanted to teach me, who wanted to pour into me, who wanted to help me succeed. But not everybody walks into situations like that. Bare minimum, collecting my check and going home. Who knows if I would be where I'm at? Because nothing set me up for success. because we
Mhm.
weren't doing work that showed value. Maybe at the time it was, but I know in my position where I'm at now, if I was to put work out like that, all that is to check a box. And if I was to go somewhere else, I wouldn't have any kind of transferable skill
Mm.
because anybody could do that kind of work.
Facts.
Anybody could do that. I'm not challenging to your point, I'm not challenging why am I doing this? Why are we writing training this way? Why are we trying to teach people this way? What outcome are you looking for? And what behaviors are driving that outcome? How will we know when we're successful? What are the indicators? How will
Mhm.
we know if it wasn't a success? What are those indicators? What are some things that we could track along the way so that if we have to pivot, we could pivot with confidence? All things that I'm looking at, right? So the grind, brother. The grind,
No, I
brother.
love that. Very well said, Matthew. Matthew McConaughey. Very well said. I'm
Listen,
proud of you, man.
I've
I
grown.
am.
I've
I
grown,
am.
brother. I've grown. I'm a thought leader now.
We came a long way, brother. I remember when you walked into that 4x4 cubicle straight out of McDonald's. I'm like, man, this guy doesn't know shit or anything. Now you're over here
Now it's
teaching
fact.
me.
No, I didn't know shit about anything. But to
No,
everybody,
I know.
you right. You right. What's funny is that so this Monday was March 2nd. Yeah. So Monday was March 2nd. I celebrated 11 years where we work. Right. I
Wow.
joined when I was 18. I'm gonna be 30 this year. And but I thought about it, like, because my boss asked me, like, how does it feel? And I was like, I really was stupid as fuck when I joined the company. And a lot of it was because I was green. I didn't have a lot of experience. I had no professional experience outside of, like you said, working at the Golden Arches as a high school job. But that's why, again, going back to what I said, I mean, that's why it's so important. Like, having, you can't rely that everybody's going to have dope ass people. Not everybody's going to have that support. So, how can we do things that don't depend on that? We want it, but how do we depend? How do you innovate? How do you ask the difficult questions? That's not an easy question to answer because some people might be like, hey, you're trying to take the human element out of it. No, in fact, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to empower the humans that exist already in those
Mm.
spots because maybe they weren't developed and they're not equipped to
Oh, that's
support
a
you.
fact. That's a fact.
Right.
It's like going through childhood trauma that may stem from like your parenthood, but your parents might not know the way because of what they went through, right? It's just a
What a connection. This guy's good.
no,
This
I'm not
guy
good.
is this
We on point. We've been on point. We owe this to our audience because they've been fucking with us. But no, that's why it's important that we do pay it forward or pay it
yes.
backward to the people that we've been associated with. 'Cause as long as they're open and growing, and if they're
Yes.
not, that's fine, right? Because like myself included, right? I got to a situation where I became stagnant and complacent. If I'm being real, and it took some self reflecting. Like, yo, I don't want to be that person. It's not who I want to be, and it's not good for anybody around me. So what do I got to do? So then I started going like investigating what helps me become a better leader, and how I did that was it'd be YouTube, it'd be like I Google like what leaders like what makes a successful leader, and it says X Y Z, and I'm like, okay, how can I learn these skills X Y and Z? And then I looked into it, and I found classes, I found trainings, I found different things that could uh, grow my skill set so that I could be the best leader I could potentially possibly be. And once I learned them, that was just the beginning. It's like, all right, how do I make sure the people near me are receiving this information as well? I don't want to gatekeep this. I want people to be successful. So even with like the newsletter I created, right? It was because I had to be influential. And how many times you go and you look at your emails, like, oh, another email, or another update, or another data sheet. And I could tell that's what it was. And me being in the trenches, and I understand that too, because it's like, oh, even when I'm checking my emails. So what I did, I looked up what captures people's attention in the environment that I'm in that's gonna make people want to read it, want to see it, want to view it, and it came up with the digital newsletter. Now I had no clue how to do one. I had no clue how to make one, but I feel like I'm somewhat of a creative person, so I just said, "Fuck it, let me try it." Boom, downloaded it and just went to work. And it was a little rough around the edges, but I got feedback. I said, okay, what do you like? What don't you like? What can I change? What do you think is more appealing? And I took the feedback and I made the adjustments, and it became a whole. It went from a little market thing, excuse me, a little district thing to a big market thing to the whole area, where now I'm reaching hundreds of people and impacting them the way that I wanted to, and be that influential leader. So I think that when you get caught up in situations, it's so easy to point like, oh, I didn't have this, or I didn't have that, or I didn't have this person. The first person you should always look at, always, is in the mirror. Are you doing enough? What did you do to prevent that? Or what did you do to not prevent that?
Man, this guy is good.
That's
This
yeah.
guy is good. Now you're Michael Jackson, starting with the man in the mirror. I love it. You know what's
Don't make
funny
me
though?
sing that.
Shout out to our guy Ray. You remember that episode?
Yeah, that was crazy. We didn't put that one out.
Yeah, we did. I sure went out. But I love everything that you said. And here's why. Because we were talking about, right, how do you make yourself kind of like a plug and play asset where it's like, you know what, even though if Quan doesn't necessarily have 100% of the skills needed to do something, maybe you only have 70. But what I know about Quan, not 70%, is that he has this one skill and he has it really strongly and he has it mastered, that he's able to identify what he doesn't know and you can attack it relentlessly to make it an area of strength.
Mhm.
And that's exactly how you make yourself a super valuable asset. I was talking with my boss again during that development connect. And I told her that I was like, there's two things throughout my entire career, two skills that I believe fundamentally have made me successful in anything that I've faced. One is empathy. You got to care. You got to care about whatever it is, whether it's a customer, whether it's a problem, whatever it is. You got to care. Right? You have to want to do something. It's intrinsic. Nobody can make you want to do it. It has to come from within. And we talk about that a lot, right? Two, once you identify that there's a way to do something better, because in your case, it wasn't even a problem. It was like, we could do this better. I'm tired of looking at spreadsheets. It's not impacting me. And I know it's not impacting my people because the moment it hits their inbox, they're deleting it. Right. Or whatever it is. Or maybe you saw
Yeah.
the amount of people that opened it. Maybe they had tracking
Mhm.
on it. And you identified, hey, there's an opportunity here. But then you knew, hey, I don't have the skills to do it. Like you said, I don't know how to fucking do that. So you were actively curious. That's the other skill. You were actively curious because you cared enough about something that you wanted to make a change. And you went and you sought information. You didn't sit on the, well, I don't know how to do this. It's not really part of my job. And I bet you what, no one would have been mad at you if you didn't do it, right? It's not
Mhm.
your job. You didn't
Mhm.
have to do it. And you weren't doing it for recognition. You were doing it because you wanted to help people. So you're empathetic, you're actively curious, you put that into action, and that was your result. And then you showed
Mhm.
other things throughout the way, right? Ability to source information, actively seeking out feedback, implementing feedback, scalability, right? You talked about from a small district thing to a big market thing to even larger area thing. You scaled as you
Mhm.
got feedback and you iterated on it and the impact that it had. Even though that was a newsletter, you could translate that to anything that you do. It could be a newsletter, it could be a piece of training, it could be a new initiative that your company's trying to push, whatever it is. Those skills translate to everything that you
Yeah.
try to do.
Yeah. So I'm not stuck in my position if I'm forced
Exactly.
out or if I seek out.
Yes.
It's transferable skill set. I get what you're saying.
I love that too. Force out or seek out.
See
Also want
that?
to I want to I do. I want to actually before I jump to the seek out thing, I want to talk about something that you mentioned because you said pay it forward. You talked about and it's very common in parenthood, right? Where a lot of people harbor things about their parents because they feel like their parents could have done better. But then you mentioned like maybe they didn't even know, right? And so it's not
Mhm.
just paying it forward, like you said, it's paying it backwards. And so I think that's a big reason of why I'm so motivated from a work standpoint is that there's so many people that played a part in what I did and where I am. But yet they've been in the same spots ever since I've known them. or they don't understand what's the pathway. But now that I know what the pathway is, how can I go back
Mm.
and say, hey, there is a pathway if you want to pursue it. But now, to what you talked about, the seek out thing, I and you could, correct me if you feel differently. I feel like a lot of reason why people don't seek out is fear, because they see what the landscape is and they see people that have maybe left store roles or frontline or roles that are very important to dealing directly with customers and have gone to these headquarter type roles, and they're seeing the massive layoffs across industries. It's not just where we work, it's all over the place. My question to you is, how do you work on overcoming that fear of seeking out, because you are like, this is safe here. And while I do want that thing, I don't want to be stuck without a job.
I think you just listed two fears, right? You have the fear of seeking out and the fear of potentially losing your job. You tell me what one outweighs the other: the fear of reaching out while you're in a position to, or the fear of you not being in the position to really reach out, right? For me, I can really only speak for myself in the sense
Right.
of, for me, it was never fair to reach out because worst case scenario, to be like, I can't help you, or they don't respond. Because
Right.
I faced that, right? I've reached out to people and there's no response, or I reached out to people and I got some bullshit answers. But that didn't stop me. You just got to continue doing so until you get the answer you need, or the answers that you feel is going to help you with whatever you're working on in that moment. My suggestion to people is like, what we do in most cases is like, weigh out the pros and cons if you have to. What's the pros of
Mhm.
reaching out to this person? What's the cons, right? I can almost guarantee that the pros will outweigh the cons when it comes out to seeking out for some help or some information, especially because uh, I would I feel like the majority of people, when you're being reached out to in the sense of you can provide somebody with something, it's a sense of like, oh, I'm being looked at as somebody who's successful, or I'm being looked at as
Yes.
somebody who could provide some value to somewhere else that I had no person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I reached out to someone in Cali. This guy would have never knew me a day in his life, but he's like, this guy all the way from Connecticut is reaching out to me, and I'm like,
Yes.
yeah, you're winning. I want to win.
Right.
What's helping? Right?
Yes.
So the pride, I think the pride gets in the way a lot. I think you're absolutely right. Like, I'm not going to disagree with you. Fear is what they say. If fear is the number one reason people don't reach their dreams or their goals or
Yeah.
whatever, because they get in their
100%.
own way. Yeah, I think that if you have the opportunity to do so, you just gotta go for it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the fact I wasn't even really necessarily talking about the networking piece, but I think that's so huge. And I think that's something that I do agree that people are a little nervous because they're like, what happens if they don't want to help me? You know, that's one thing. But to your point, I've experienced more of people wanting to help than
Yeah.
not. So what you just said, like, I'm reaching out to you because I feel like you can help me. So in that, and when people reach out to me, I look at it very similar. Like, they're recognizing me for whatever reason. Like, either somebody told me, "Hey, you should reach out to this person," which means that other person thinks something of me, which is good, or you found me on your own and you thought maybe I could help you for whatever reason that might be. So I love that call out. What I was really getting at was people that are like, "Hey, I don't wanna try to go for that promotion because if I get
Mm.
it, I've seen people lose their job," And you talked about a
Okay,
situation
I
like
get what
that
you're saying.
recently where it's like, it's safer to be where I am instead of trying to move up because there's less position. The more you move up, right, there's less positions available, and so it's kind of an easy target sometimes. How do you deal with that? Where it's like, yeah, like, that's a possibility. It's a real possibility.
Yeah, no, it is a real possibility, and I understand the fear that comes with that. But what's more fearful, you not trying and you staying stuck where you are in a position where you're stagnant and complacent, or the fear of getting somewhere you want to go, reaching more success and progress, and with the
Mhm.
potential that comes with. If you made it to that next level, and let's just say you do get clipped for whatever reason, that means somebody thought highly of you to be at that level. So now you know
Yeah.
you can be at that level. You just need another opportunity to get
Yep.
somewhere you need to be, right? And it's easier, in my opinion, it's easier to go backwards than it is to go forwards, right? At
Yeah.
least in like a structured role, if
Yep.
I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I get what you
Uh,
mean.
my thing is I'm more fearful of missing out on an opportunity that could change my life. I'm
Mhm.
more fearful of that. Now, what comes with that, I can't dictate that. I just know what's in front of me. So
Yes.
I'm paying attention to the now of like, okay, now I have a chance, I have an opportunity, I have a moment. And I'll make the best of it and I'm gonna make the most of it. What comes with that,
Yep.
I can't determine that. So I'm not gonna let
Yeah.
what potentially could happen. Because if you're looking at the potential, now you're only looking at the negative. Are you looking at the
Oh
positive?
boy.
Now it goes back to
Ma
pros and cons again.
This guy's cooking. NBA Jam heating up. Not even you're on fire at this point.
Oh, thanks.
Not this guy is Lloyd Banks. Smoke went
About
up,
five.
wanna Yeah, I love that call out is the fear and looking at the negative of it. And to your point, I mean, I feel very similarly. It's okay. So I could stay here where maybe I'm not as happy. It doesn't have the things that I want because I feel like it's safe. But is it really safe? Like you got to define safety. I get it. Like you feel like it's quote unquote, right? Guaranteed income. Let's just use that word, right? I'm good here. But who knows if you're really good there? How do you know they don't
Yeah,
clip you, right? And that
yeah, yeah.
person that got the job that you went for doesn't stay along. I know a lot of people are like, "Whoa, if I go for it and they decide to clip people, it's typically the people with the least amount of tenure that go, right? Or like new people that are brought on, unless it's somebody's making a shit ton of money or whatever." But here's how I feel about it. Whether it's you've been on the job for 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. We talked about this a little bit last episode. If you got people that advocate for you, it doesn't matter how long you've been there.
Mm.
Because you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I could have been there for 6 weeks and you could have been there for 6 years. If people are advocating for me, not for you, what does that say? This guy's
Mm-hmm.
only been here for 6 weeks and they're going to bat for him, and you've been here for 6 years. We're going to go with this guy.
Facts. No, that's a good call out. Damn, this is why I don't mean to interrupt you. I gotta bring a notepad so I don't forget what I was gonna say. Oh, about being clipped in your safe role, right? But
Hmm.
realistically, you went for that, or you want to go for that next challenge because you're not being challenged, right? So more than likely, you're somewhat complacent because you're in a safe spot. That gives you more reason to get clipped because if you're in a safe spot,
Uh,
that means you ain't putting in the work that we
right.
really need out of you, right? So there's that. Advocating, right? So I'm big on that, right? Like I've had tenure, but
Hmm.
I'll let the tenure define me. The tenure don't mean shit.
No. Yeah.
All right. It's the work. It's the work ethic. It's the skill set that I'm continuing to build upon. That's why I was like, I had a young man who was under my wing, I guess you would say. And he felt like he was obligated to get the next opportunity because of his tenure and what was around him. But I'm like, bro, your tenure doesn't mean anything. If you're not bringing the value that someone else could bring, I don't care if you was here 6 years or 6 months. That person with
Hell
six
yeah.
months is bringing more value. That's why
Yep.
he's getting the role over you. And
Yep.
then you're quick to look at, I got screwed over. No, that's again, look in the mirror. Do the self-reflecting. What aren't you doing that you
Yeah.
could be doing to
Absolutely.
prepare you for that? And if you could say, "Oh, I'm doing everything," all right, we could have a different conversation. Maybe there's something little you got to tweak. Maybe it's an interview. Maybe it was something in your resume. Who knows? But until you know you put in all the work that you need to be successful, then I don't want to hear that. And it has nothing to do with tenure.
Percent. You can't lean on yesterday to prove your value today. And that just is what it is. And, and,
Mm,
and unfortunately, it is a what have you done for me lately kind of world, right? Where it's like, that's cool that you won that award last year. That was last year.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's just is what it is. You can't
yeah.
and you can't stay in that spot and rest on those laurels. Like,
I had a conversation with like evolution, right? Like times changing,
mm-hmm,
computers changing, internet, AI.
mm-hmm.
So people have to change, right? It was actually around tattoos because I remember way back someone had to cover up his tattoos and stuff when we had visits. Now you don't really have to. And, part of that is obviously because more people started to get tattoos, right? As long as it's not nothing hateful or anything crazy, it's not a big deal. And that was just part of the evolution, right? But you got to continue to evolve. It's like you won that award 2 years ago. Great, right? You got something to
Mhm.
speak upon. But what have you done lately? Like, are you still evolving? Or are you still that person that's winning those individual awards? Like,
Yes.
is that is that award even applicable to the role that you want?
Uh, I think that's such a tricky thing, man, especially for folks that are when you're trying to go into sales leadership in specific, it's like, bro, just because you could sell doesn't mean you could teach people and you can grow people how to sell. Just because
Facts.
you won awards doesn't mean you're gonna be a good leader. That doesn't mean anything.
Facts.
I mean, it helps get your name in some conversations. Like, hey, maybe we should look at this person a little bit more, under the magnifying glass. But that's all it does, really. All the awards for, like, hey, let's shine the spotlight on somebody real quick and see what they're really doing. Because then now people are really gonna start picking apart your game, right? It's like when you win the chip in sports. Now you got a target on your back.
Mhm.
Now we're really gonna be looking at you to say, hey, what is this person doing? What are they doing? Not just, obviously when the lights on them, what are they doing when they're not? How do they prepare? How do they continue to evolve to your point? And then if they're not, well, it's like, well, you know what? And I want to say this because we're getting on people that are like, hey, I'm cool with my role. Listen, there's some people that it satisfies them. They show up, they do great work, and that's all they want. They
Mhm.
don't, and that's totally okay. I'm not
No,
coming
that's a
at those
fact.
people at all.
No, that's a
Right.
fact.
And you need
I
people like
remember
that in the organization, right? You need people that are
no,
like, you know what, this is my lane. I love it. I'm gonna come to work hard. You see it in their work, and they just want to go home. And that's cool. I just wanted to call that out because it seems like we're dogging on them.
no, we're not. We're not. I'm glad you did call that out if people were feeling any type of way. I remember I actually was at that meeting I talked about way back in the day where there were some leaders talking to myself and others that I found inspirational. I was like, look, if you don't want it, that's okay. But be the best fucking person in that role, right? Like it's not about being complacent, it's about being the best you are. So you can still evolve and still grow in that role to be the best person for that job, right? So yeah, good call out because we're not, talking shit about
No,
people who want to be in that role.
I feel like there's a lot of people at a crossroad where they're like, I know what I want, or like I think I know what I want, but I'm not 100% sure if I could do the job that I want to go for. If I have the skills available or I have the skills mastered or attained for it. And I think the biggest disconnect for a lot of folks, because we both know a lot of talented people with a lot of unique and interesting skills, is they don't understand the transferability of their skills. And I tell
Mm,
this to people that I speak with that come from the front line all the time. I'm like, you have no idea how well your skills would play in a back office headquarters support type of role. And the most important one is that you know how to connect with people, right?
yeah,
You know, and I'm talking to the
yeah,
people that do sales. I'm talking to the people that are on the phones, people that directly deal with customers. You know how to connect with people in ways that people who have never done it before don't. It just is what it is. And
hmm,
so that plays so well when you come into a back office role because you know how to create relationships, identify partnerships, get people connected in ways that other people don't. You know how to ask
hmm,
the right questions in ways
hmm,
that people don't. And those are two of the most valuable skills, regardless of where you go. And I just brought those as an examples, but it's on you, like you said earlier, it's on you to figure out how the skills you have transfer. Cause I bet they do. But you got to figure out how they transfer. And if you're in an interview or talking to somebody, how you can speak to what you've done, even though it's not exactly what the job is doing, is something similar because you're using the same behaviors, the same skills,
that's right.
right? You talked about with your newsletter, right? I pulled out things that you did. You said this is what you do with a newsletter, but what did I call out? Empathy,
Yep,
getting feedback,
yep.
scalability. Those are all things that transfer. So I'm curious, when you were doing that newsletter, were you aware like, "Hey, I'm building these skills that I don't have," or is it kind of just like, "I see an opportunity, I'm just gonna go."
It was a little of both. It was first it was the opportunity of me being able to build upon the skills, right? Like I said, creating a newsletter, I had no idea. As I was doing it, I'm like, I'm getting pretty good at this. I'm sure I could transfer this into another role, right? Another opportunity, which I'm currently doing. So I identified like, okay, I could be able to read the data, apply it, and based off the data, have suggestions to make some adjustments where it needs to be, right? And coach to that, speak to that, collaborate with other individuals to see, what they're doing once again to either be successful or even talk to the ones who's not seeing success to see what they're doing so that I could apply some of the learnings that I've taken from other individuals to what they're seeing success with. So it's a little bit of both, right? You got to want that opportunity. And then it's not always easy, if I'm being real, to identify, oh, this is gonna a behavior of active listening or whatever the case may be. But when you reflect, you'll see that. Or again, you can reach out because like for example, if they have someone like you in their corner or somebody else that's like, yo, did you notice that you was doing X, Y, and Z while you was doing this? Because it's not always easy to identify, but
Right.
if you reflect and like write shit down or have conversations with people for feedback, you'll start to see and understand like, wow, I did a lot more than just create a newsletter, if that makes sense.
Yes. And I love that you ended with that because I think that's where for a lot of people it would stop. Like I just made a newsletter. That's all I did. But to your point, you just went over all the things that you did and all the skills that you leveraged while doing that. And
Mm,
I don't and again, and I'm not blaming nobody or calling nobody out for it. It's like, but to your point, take the time to reflect. Take the
mhm,
time to ask questions of a leader. Maybe it's a skip leader, right? Maybe your direct leader isn't 100% sure, but maybe their leader does. You can ask your leader, like, hey, is there anybody that I can work with to like kind of help me identify what skills I'm building, what skills I don't have that maybe I do want to go after if I have a specific role that I want to go after in mind? Because I feel like more people are closer to what they want than what they realize. It's the connection hasn't ever been made, and so they're kinda like, "No, I don't qualify for that. No, I can't
yeah.
do that. No, I can't
Yo,
speak to that."
and I like what you said with like, maybe your direct leader doesn't see or can't really identify. It's okay to seek out other people, right? Because
Yeah.
they might not know, or you might have a leader who just doesn't see the skill set that you're applying or you're learning, or both.
Mhm.
Because as I think about it, like I'm sure there's some leaders out there who just they're in that space, maybe because they shouldn't be, or maybe because they just lack what they know, right? Kind of like what we went back before, like nobody paid it backwards or forwards to them, so they don't know how to identify the things that you're doing as a skill set that's transferable. So seek out more than just one person. Even if you do get good answers, it's okay to seek out more information. What's that gonna hurt?
It's not. No, I'm with you on that, brother. Like, I think the overarching message and everything is that you as the individual need to own it. Right, I remember I went through this program, and there was one part of the program, it was, like, in sections, and one of the parts was, "It's your career," right? Own it. It's your life. Own it.
Mhm.
You need to own it. You need to take some kind of ownership. To your point,
That's
like
a
what you
fact.
said, I think, like, maybe at minute 20 in the show is, like, you can't say, "Oh, I didn't have this, and I didn't have that. I didn't have the leader that supported me like you did. I didn't have this person like you did." But you know what you do have? Number 1, you have technology, right? Like,
Yeah.
but 2, you have an ability to network. Just ask somebody. Ask
Mhm.
somebody. To your point, don't be scared to reach out, even if you sound ignorant. And you can admit that, right? Drop in the pride, like, yeah, I don't know. That's exactly why I'm talking to you. You know? So
Sometimes it takes
you don't own it.
actually, not even sometimes. I feel like it takes a stronger person to say, "Yo, I don't know. I
Yes.
don't know.
100%.
Help me understand."
I think it's because we used to laugh, at school, you used to laugh at the kids that raised their hand, like, oh, this guy doesn't know, right? When everybody is in the same boat, like, man, I hope somebody raises their hand. I'm going to laugh
Yeah.
at them, but, you know, thank God they didn't, that wasn't me. But that's real. You can't expect anybody to want it for you. But what you can do through networking is make your goal known or whatever you're trying to achieve known. because then now you have more people trying to help you achieve it, right? If you have a good circle or a good leadership, but if you have more people that are like, oh, I know that he wants to do this. So maybe something comes across their desk and it's like, I remember that Quan was talking about something like this. I'll talk to him
Mm,
about it. This might be somebody Quan might want to talk to about whatever thing he just told me about. But the thing is, you can't, and that's why networking is so important. It's so difficult to do on your own. And I mean, I think we both feel like nobody truly does it on their own. You always got people that help. But unless you vocalize those things, how are people going to know? And I think that ties back to the conversation we were having earlier about remaining as the individual, even when you're in team spots, so that when you do go to a new team or lose a job or whatever, you know who you are. Is you have people that help you that kind of help you
mhm,
say, this is what's unique about you. And when you got people that want to advocate for you, the person, it kind of helps lift you up. Like, man, like these people poured this much into me. I know who I am. It wasn't the job or the title or whatever. It wasn't the uniform that determined who I was. It was the work that I put in. It was the lives that I impacted. It was the lives that impacted me.
mhm.
And I could do that anywhere. Period. That's a
And I just want to talk a little bit about what you said with like owning it. Like, I know we talked about this in the past, but so many people say they want this, they want that, they want to grow, but they don't own it. They expect that, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves. Is you tell me you want something, I'll support you wholeheartedly, but you got to show me you want it, and I'm not coming to you. Like, why do people feel like they need, even if you're in a drought, right, or you're going through shit of like you don't know what you want, but you do know what you want, but you're not doing anything about it. You're not active. You're not actively trying to figure out, how do I get from A to B? You're just
right.
expecting somebody to come to you and be like, hey, you're stuck on A, let's get you to B. Now, granted, you'll have some people that might do that. I might even do that from time to time, but that's not something that we should be doing. Because, like you said, this is your career, this is your life. What are you doing about it? You're gonna wait around for someone to come do something every single time? You're not gonna get far. That's a promise.
You won't. No, I agree with you. And it's like, to your point, it's a behavior thing, right? Like we talk about skill versus will all the time. That's not a skill. I can't teach you to want something, especially if you don't want it. If you don't, and I talked about this in a conversation with my leader as well, was like, when I didn't get that job we talked about last episode, having that tough conversation with myself to say, am I doing this because this is what's next and it's all I know and it's comfortable? Or am I doing it because this is what I want? And I did what you did, right? What you talked about was like, let me list the pros and cons of if I continue down this path that I was currently on, or if I went and try to find a different lane, and it quickly became apparent. I'll be transparent here and vulnerable. One of the big drivers was when I was growing up, obviously both my parents in the house, love my parents. But when I was a kid, there'd be times where I wouldn't see my dad for days. And it wasn't because he wasn't around. It was because he would go to work before I left, before I woke up, and he would come home after I went to sleep because he was working that much just to keep the lights on. And we both know what the resale life is like, right? Crazy hours, especially during the holidays. You can't really enjoy them. You only get maybe 1 or 2 days off, but you're stressed thinking that you gotta go to work tomorrow. So you can't really enjoy if you want to have a drink or be out late with your friends. You can't do any of that because you got to be prepared to work 500 million hours over the next 2 days. And at that time, Emmanuel, my oldest son, he wasn't even one yet. And I was like, continuing down the route that I wanted was comfortable, but in the same sense, it wasn't, because I didn't want him to have the same experience that I had. I wanted to be there every night to say goodnight to him, right? Because I know that how much it meant to me when my dad was around all the time, how much I enjoyed that. And so I'm
Mhm,
like, I want my son to have access to his dad as much as possible.
mhm,
And I know that that route might have taken me away from that just because I understood what the structure and the hours look like. Not that it's a bad gig and it works for some people, but I'm like, this doesn't work for me. It's not really what I want. But
right.
again, goes back to the will thing. What do I want? And no one else could have made that decision for me. I had to make it myself.
Fact.
So that's real that you call that out. So good episode by this guy. Well, I appreciate everybody for tuning in another fine episode. Quan carried this show. So,
Nah,
keep
it's a
keep score or
mutual
something like that. That's cool. Now, a little
keep
competition always good.
keep score. You know what it
Host
reminds
of
me
the
of? The
show.
Locks. It reminds me of the Locks. Styles P was just on I forgot what pod it was, but he was on there talking about how, still sharp and still. It could be any one of their given nights, whether it's Sheik or Jada or himself. It was like us. Still sharp and still, man. You make me better. Sometimes you carry, sometimes I carry. That's the beauty of this partnership, this brotherhood.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And keep reaching out. Like I said early in the show, those messages fire. Even if it's over like a little one-liner, like even that means more than like if you just looked at the titles like, yo, show was fire, right? That means we know you was listening. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, think critically, speak infamously. It's love.
Love.